there will be a winner. And here we go. Karthikeyan opening with his trademark King's Pawn, and Dubov playing the King's Pawn opening. What do you call this? The row lopez. Well, this one is row lopez, but when you open e4, e5.
I think it's just e4,
e4,
e5. But now it has turned into one of my favorite openings, the Marshall, which also featured prominently in Magnus's last World Championship match. So it's a safe bet. Dubov knows a little something about what he's doing here. Decided not to play the Sicilian, but the somewhat safer e4, e5. But now he can sacrifice a pawn with the Marshall. Is he going to do it, or was he just bluffing?
No,
there comes the pawn.
Of course. I mean, hello, this is Dubov. He loves to sacrifice pawns. The thing is, though, the Marshall has been worked out to great depth.
Yeah.
And these days...
This move is a small surprise. Usually they advance the pawn to cover the knight. But Dubov covers it with the bishop. Maybe trying to survive, but also to surprise Karthikeyan here.
Yeah, probably. Because...
it worked.
Definitely worked. And this is what some of the higher rated players do to the lower rated opponents. You know, just bring something a little bit different and just say, hey, I will be able to catch you unawares, grab you by surprise with my experience.
Yeah, Dubov actually moved the bishop to b7, so it's Karthikeyan's clock that's running here, that we can see. Karthikeyan has 2 minutes, 10 seconds, and Dubov still has 3 minutes. Queen to f3 after some thought, one of the main theoretical moves, trying to pin that knight in the middle. But Dubov says, be my guest, take it. Bishop to d6.
And the rook has to move backwards. I would put it back to where it came from.
Or take on d5. Is that possible? With the bishop or with the rook?
That
a lot to think about.
Possible. And one of the things I liked about Karthikeyan's video is he told us he works 12 hours on chess.
What, week?
Per day.
Month?
No.
Per day?
Per day.
Where does he find the time for the piano and the flute?
That's just half-hour practice in the morning.
12 hours per day.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't.
So when did he get up this morning? Like 7? Because he had to be here at 7 probably to get the 12 hours.
Yeah, he probably did. And then
he didn't check this during his daily 12 hours. Daniil surprised him here. Bishop takes the knight and pawn to c6. That's the point, attacking the bishop. Now the rook retreats. You recapture. Black is still missing a pawn, but this is a typical situation where black has the 2 bishops and stability in the center in return for the pawn. It's not supposed to be too bad for black.
No.
Daniil, still in book, makes all his moves instantly. But Karthikeyan is down to a minute almost.
Yes, down to a minute, but we do have to remember that players do get an extra 2 seconds per move. So it's not so critical, and the position looks to me quite simple for white to play. You know, it's just about developing the knight now and hold tight and wait for black to do
decide
something.
if he wants to launch an attack. He decides against it. He could have pushed the f pawn or also the b pawn, but he decides to double rook play. Double rooks played very calmly, just saying I might be a pawn down, but the structure is sound. I'm not too concerned about it.
And take a look at the calmness of both players. Both of them under the 100 mark.
Yeah.
No one is stressed. No one is excited. Everyone is just in the zone, playing and enjoying some chess. And here comes Dubov's expansion on the queen side, and Karthikeyan just saying, hey, I'm just going to consolidate everything on the E-line and initiate some trades.
Yeah, very typical play by Dubov there, trying to soften up white's queen side with his pawn pushes, so the bishops get a little more scope. His one bishop could now go to a6, attack the rook on e2. The other, the pawn gets taken, could potentially recapture and pin there. So Karthikeyan is saying, I don't want any of that. I'm willing to exchange a bunch of pieces here. Nice move, bishop to f4. Asking Daniil some questions.
Yeah, definitely asking some questions. He did burn a lot of time on the clock, though, to get here. Karthikeyan only has 40 seconds. And we did see in his match against Matsudlu, this was the crucial factor.
Yeah, he needs to speed up, but for now he made Daniil think a little bit. Dubov weighing his options here, wondering if he should exchange all the rooks. The tactical point is if all the rooks get exchanged and then he takes the bishop, in the end, there's a checkmate on e8. So some very deep calculation there by Karthikeyan. And Daniil seems a little rattled. How's his heart rate? 82. No, not rattled at all.
No, the stats don't lie. And talking about someone who is rattled, Karthikeyan is now gone up to 144, just after I was praising him for being so calm. Now it's dawning on him that he could be having an advantage. And there we see a trade of pawns. Rooks leave the board, and Dubov capturing with the f-pawn.
Yeah.
It would be a mistake to go bishop takes bishop, because you would actually go pawn takes knight, attacking the queen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now Karthikeyan faces a tricky decision. I'm not sure if he played the best moves here, because if he takes with the queen now, his pawn on c3 is loose, and if he takes with the pawn, he really weakens his king side. He will have to take with the pawn to keep his extra material. But now Daniil has a target in this f4 pawn.
Yeah, he does have a target, and something else to target, and I've been going on about this quite a lot, but it's clock time.
The clock.
I mean, he just has 17 seconds on the clock, and his king is weak. And there we see Dubov. He plays great chess, defends the weakness on e6. This liberates the rook to go to f8. There you go. But Karthikeyan playing some good moves. Good stuff there. Put the rook in the center.
He's stabilizing, but he has 13 seconds now. That's fewer than Jan Nepomniachtchi has helpers for his world championship.
And h3 played. Dubov cold as ice. He's simply making room for his king.
He's
and
cold as ice, but he's not willing to sacrifice. And now he has to really think about how to keep his pawn there after f5.
Yeah, he certainly has to. He can leave it though. The pawn is actually not going anywhere.
I could jump into c5. It feels like he's under some pressure.
Yeah, potentially.
Also catching up on the clock. 35 seconds.
33, it's going down. And difficult decision to be made. He does take with a pawn.
He does part with the pawn. So he was willing to sacrifice it.
He was. And now the knight's going to spring to c5. Oh, but you know, this feels dangerous for Dubov.
Just feels bad.
There is that. And 20 seconds for Dubov. Wow, I'm very impressed by Karthikeyan's resourcefulness. Gives a check. King moves.
So Karthikeyan now looks completely calm. I'm sure his heart rate says differently, but he knows he has a good position. He's controlling a lot of squares. Queen will retreat, not allowing the black queen to enter.
Oh, well, she's going in anyway.
Questions.
Oh, ew, 4 seconds. Oh, no.
There was some panic. He almost hung the rook and had to put it there. But now black mobilizes, the bishop takes the pawn.
He's lost control.
Yeah, and I don't think he likes it.
The bishop comes down to f5, rook moves, and now gives a check. And now the queen is going to swoop in, and ooh.
5 seconds though.
Okay, this is a great move from Karthikeyan. Just put the knight next to the king. Knights are great defenders, and he has 6 seconds.
And he threatened checkmate. Dubov has to react. And he loses a piece to parry the mate. And the Armageddon is to win this one as well. Here we go. On to d4.
And
Dubov, lover of the Catalan opening. There it comes. Always happy to sacrifice that c4 pawn. I would expect Karthikeyan to play something solid, but no, he takes. He wants you to take that pawn. But c5 is a very solid line, trying to simplify.
Right. But Dubov, of course, this is his bread and butter. He plays his positions every single day. So very, very familiar, big expert. And in fact, he was the one that convinced Magnus Carlsen at the last World Championship match to play this opening, as you well know, Jan.
I did not know he convinced Magnus, but if you say so, I'll take your word for it. Here, Karthikeyan gives a pawn, which is all theory, but it's a risky choice in a draw is enough situation. It's all theory, pawn to h6, a queen to rook to b4. We've seen this before. Still, if you need a draw to be a pawn down, rare choice. Queen to e7 first.
Yeah.
The black compensation is not so clear. It's mainly based on That queen being slightly strange on h4, but I think queen e7 might have been inaccurate, because you're supposed to go, if memory serves, pawn to h6 to stop this pin. Now the pin comes, if he takes the pawn on b2, the knight can jump, and if he has to allow these exchanges, he'll just face a very, very unpleasant defense in an endgame, missing a pawn.
He's missing a pawn, and I'm not a big fan of the pawn structure there on the right side, and yeah, very unpleasant position. So it looks like Dubov in full control here, and take a look at the clock. He's got 3 minutes and his heart rate 103. So we could see a big comeback. And now the rooks are traded.
Daniil won the opening battle. Of course, he's a big, big theoretician. Took one inaccuracy from Karthikeyan there. He has to suffer now, but there is hope. He does have the 2 bishops, similar to the last game where black was also a pawn down, but had the pair of bishops. Here the situation is a little worse because the structure is not as good, but it's never easy to convert this extra pawn against the bishop pair.
Yeah, I'm not that optimistic. I think Dubov will do it. And the great thing about this type of endgame is that he can make lots of improving moves and build up a long time on the clock and just give himself the time to think things through. And well, he steps forward with the a3 pawn, a2 pawn, sorry, and bishop drops back. Not that
He wants
much.
to advance the pawn and then put the bishop on f6 on the infamous long diagonal. Now, I still believe in Murali, but g4, nice move. I would have preferred if black maybe started with his f4 pawn, f5 move to make sure he gets there, because now it won't be so easy where to regroup the bishop. Now he can't push the pawn because then Dubov would take. Classy little move there, pawn to g4.
Very classy. And maybe the rook, the black rook, can step up 2 squares and help the bishop get to the diagonal via d6. And looking at the heart rates, Daniil Dubov, very steady, very calm, 94. And Karthikeyan also relatively calm, around the same mark.
Dubov works out a lot, maybe. His resting heart rate is just so low that this is already very excited for him. Bishop to d8, Karthikeyan trying to find a good square.
That's true, actually. You know, when you're an elite athlete, the resting heart rate tends to be around 50, 40. It's ridiculously low. And there we see the bishop retreat to d8, is getting ready to find greener waters on c7 and e5. There you go. It's getting there.
Slowly but surely shuffling the bishop around. Murali once again, little low on the clock, but we've seen in the last game that he can still make excellent moves on seconds. Well, Daniil, yeah, he's taking it slow, shuffling his knight around here. I still think it's not gonna be easy to win this, but probably I will be proven wrong.
Commentator's curse. And the bishop does relocate to e5. Knight comes to d4. And yeah, I mean, the white king now probably has to start its odyssey over to the queen side. Teamwork makes the dream work in the endgame.
I don't know. I'm always afraid to bring the king into action. Even here, but how does white improve? He could push his b pawn forward, but that also leaves some weaknesses. Looks like Daniil is saying, I'm ahead on the clock. I will just shuffle around calmly before I do anything committal.
Well, Dubov has an answer for you. He's moved his bishop to e4, preparing f2, f4.
When you play, do you have a piece to play with, like we see
No.
Dubov there?
I'm not of that generation.
Yeah.
I think it's a young person
I
thing.
can't stop watching when they do that. I know. There goes a pawn. He's saying, no, it's business time.
It is business time. And, okay, pawn takes, and now the king steps forward, guarding the d5 square.
Yeah, but
and also threatening bishop. Is bishop c6 an idea?
I don't know, but Murali had to give up one of his bishops, so now he's just a pawn down without the compensation that the bishop pair offered. This looks like an improvement for Daniil. He pushes the d-pawn, black has to go e5. And yeah, white's position has improved here.
Yeah.
Pawn up and weakened pawns on the black king side. Still not easy though. Still not
No.
easy.
Definitely not easy.
You can actually see the engine bar says this is close to equal, which surprises me. Certainly pick white, but it's not over.
I think the evaluation bar can go off and play its perfect chess, because these are humans playing and humans make mistakes. And you can see the bishop drop back and the white king is getting ready to enter the kill zone. By the kill zone, I mean the f5 and h5 squares, and Karthikeyan has to activate his rook.
Yeah, still not easy. The king comes to one step forward, the bishop will go to d7, stopping it from entering, and the rook is sitting so nicely on that b3 square.
But what you can do is you can simply overprotect the bishop. There, oh, look at that. He played it. And this just allows the king to go to h4 and h5 and say, got my eyes on you, h6 pawn.
Oh, poor pawn.
And, well, Karthikeyan under
Comes.
30 seconds.
Nice plan, you spotted it there. The rook covers the bishop, and now the king goes pawn hunting.
Yeah,
This came unexpected for Karthikeyan.
he's shaking his head.
Can he enter with the king? King e5?
He has to do something. 12 seconds.
Uh-oh,
And
7.
6. Whoa,
f5.
he breaks out.
Not what he wanted.
And you have to remember, Karthikeyan is leading the match by a point, and Dubov is in a must-win situation. And look at that, he's got a passed h-pawn. That's dangerous stuff there.
Trouble. Yeah, this should now be extremely good for
Yep,
Dubov.
look at that, overprotection. Just depriving the rook of getting to the h3 square. Okay, rook is now under attack. Rook just moves anywhere.
Yeah.
F2.
Sooner or later, the h-pawn should win this race. I like this check. Now the king can enter to f6, try to grab
Well,
more
he's
pawns.
getting greedy.
He just takes, yeah.
And the
along
key.
there.
And now is it time to start advancing
you run.
the h-pawn?
It's time to run. h4. If
Exactly.
the pawn in the middle gets taken, you exchange, you put your rook behind the passed pawn, as we learned. But Daniil has other ideas. Kicks the rook out first.
Okay, this is a good idea. I would now mobilize the bishop and put the white's rook behind the passed pawn. Okay,
Yeah.
This is
Point
good.
is you can't take on d5 now because of the pin, and the
2
rook
seconds.
helps the pawn.
And now the h-pawn is rolling.
Last defensive lines there. But the rook had to go passive to stop the h-pawn.
And we say handshake.
He hasn't seen enough. Easier said than done though. He just lost with the black pieces. Looked like he wasn't too familiar with the opening. Dubov probably happy to repeat that line and tell Karthikeyan, if you want to defend that endgame and pawn down again, be my guest. This time I also have an extra minute. Here we see Karthikeyan not thrilled to repeat that debate. He's already burning time on move 4 in the Catalan.
Yeah, and he goes for a more solid approach, as well, so far it's all recommended by you. So you're the big expert here, and we see the queen come out to grab the pawn on c4.
Yeah,
Are we going to see?
subtlety there, queen a4 to stop some sidelines after queen c2 and bishop to d2. All of this is still mainline theory. All kinds of funky movers are played here. Pawn to c6 is a big move, but Karthikeyan plays a sideline, or to my mind a sideline, knight b7, allowing the bishop to come to a5, pinning that pawn. And this is supposed to be nice for white. Maybe Karthikeyan's playing his backup line, and he didn't know it exactly, allowing Dubov to put some pressure there.
It is a very unpleasant pressure.
This is a
There you can
typical
see-
construction. It looks very strange because you bury your own bishop there on this a5 square. But the important thing for white is to stop this push pawn to c5 forever, ever. And that's the point of white's play. Karthikeyan is playing quickly. I'm not sure if he's bluffing a little bit or if he studied this and thinks it's fine.
Well, he studies a lot of chess. So
Yeah,
I'm
12
going
hours a day.
I'm going to go for the assumption
Playing
that
very
he
quickly.
knows what he's doing.
Maybe he did know what he's doing. I didn't. Here comes the pawn break, pawn to c5. And Daniil is starting to take time.
Yeah, nice pawn break. I mean, just making use of the fact that the knight on a5 is a loose piece.
Turns out you can learn more than one Catalan line in 12 hours a day, indeed.
Yes.
You were thinking, so the tactical point is if the white pawn from the center captures that pawn, then the bishop recaptures. If white takes again, the queen takes the horsey. that was defended by the B pawn. So Daniil with a decision now, taking time. Karthikeyan confident.
Well, he
We
can't
see
burn.
Dubov ahead in heart rate. That's a rare situation.
Yes, we can see 145. That's very high, I have to
Board
say.
is a little behind the action there.
And I
Taken on A5.
I have to say, one of my nurse friends is watching the show, and she reports back to me about these heart rates. She says it's not good. Not good to be over 140. Not even worse to be over 170.
Stop the games. There we go. Pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn. And if Dubov takes one more time, the queen will take the knight. Black looks to be in decent shape. I was all wrong. Karthikeyan knew what he was doing all along.
Yeah, and looks like a great line for black, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gonna get one of the most favorite things that he's got his pieces out. He's got the bishop pair. He's not down in material.
He's not down on the clock either. He started with a minute less and now he's ahead half a minute. So Daniil really having to spend some time here to solve this riddle. Currently, I would say Karthikeyan a favorite. Good position.
Great.
Ahead on the
position.
clock.
And
Only
remember,
needs a draw.
exactly, Dubov is in a must-win situation, and so that's why he puts his queen on g4 and says, "Look at that, got the skeleton of an attack brewing." After all, the queen is eyeing the king. It does look a little bit artificial, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's
But in this time control, anything goes.
not the scariest attack anybody has ever seen. Karthikeyan does bring his own queen out, just in case it's needed there for the defense. Daniil trying to make something happen, but the knight can jump onto this very pleasant square. I guess Dubov will keep pushing his pawn. Now he can offer a queen exchange if you so please. But Karthikeyan has calculated that he can win this pawn. Gives his bishop. If white recaptures, he will take a pawn. B pawn up. Karthikeyan
Yeah,
very
great
close
stuff.
to match victory here. Extra pawn ahead on the clock.
And his pieces are just so well positioned. You know, take a look at the bishop on b6. It's just bearing down on the f2 point. Now he's centralizing his rooks. Great
Make a luft,
technique.
make a luft. Yep, he makes
Yep.
a luft. Always important. So there's no backrank mates.
Definitely, and very instructively makes air for the king on the dark squares.
Daniil's trying to regain the pawn, but can he really capture that pawn there on the edge of the board? Maybe his bishop will get trapped. Yeah, he decides he can't do it. Covers the bishop, but that means he has to agree to a very unpleasant endgame, a pawn down in a must-win situation.
Well, we have seen more. We've also seen miracles from worse positions, so don't write Dubov off.
No, especially if Karthikeyan keeps taking 10 seconds per move. He should speed up a little bit. He's still ahead on the clock, but not by that much.
And here comes h4. Well, the rook overprotects the a3 pawn.
Put the horsey there, block it. Also fine. Any move is fine, really. He just has to speed up. There comes the knight.
As you recommended, trade of rooks.
Daniil must be disgusted with
No,
his
but he still
position.
has chances. I mean, he can put his bishop on b7 and go for the a6 pawn.
There
He
comes
does.
the bishop again.
And
That's a
attacking
little
the knight.
slow. It's a little slow. The counterplay is coming. I don't know.
Now
I
he
don't
has-
see a lot of chances
He can
for.
just jump forward with the
Mr.
knight. No,
Dubov.
he protects the knight.
But he also
Oh,
can't make
no.
a draw. So if now the rook goes to b2, the knight can just jump back, offering move repetition.
No, but yeah, that's unfortunate. The rook can move to e1, and it does.
Yeah, still, the knight can just go back. Once again, asking that very same question.
It can also go forward to a
Oh,
different
very
square.
subtle, very subtle. Knight to a2, saying, if you move your knight, I will take all your pawns, and if you don't,
He has to. And there the a3 pawn drops. So does the a6 pawn. And if the b pawns leave the competition, the board, I was going to say, then
b pawns leave the board, Dubov leaves the competition.
exactly. And Dubov now 50 seconds. He is not going to get any increment. He has to play quick chess. He has to hustle
How's the rook to enter?
on the time and on the board. And oh, this is so bad. The f2 pawn is under attack. He has to step back with the knight. Instead, he defends the f2 pawn with his rook.
Now Karthikeyan has established almost complete control, can start advancing his pawns in the middle of the board.
And Dubov, 30 seconds on the clock. He's not going to do it. Another pawn has fallen. All Karthikeyan has to
He
do is
almost
keep calm.
stepped into the knight fork, but he
Boom.
managed to avoid it. Dubov is giving all his pawns, trying a last-ditch attack, but it should not suffice.
And take a look at the white king. It's on the verge of getting mated. And that's why Dubov is just throwing his pieces forward. He's in survival mode, but it's not
Also out
enough.
of time.
13
seconds versus
seconds.
51.
His
There's
only hope is a checkmate somewhere, but it's not going to
shit coming
happen
here.
with the king in the middle. And 47 seconds. Okay, so the only thing Karthikeyan has to
fall
do.
asleep. He has to make any move, any piece to any square.
Dubov is playing with 8 seconds. He will win just by playing
to
random
d6.
moves. He doesn't need to work out checkmate. Okay, now the bishop will come to, I was going to say G1.
He's put the knight on a protected square.
Okay,
Now he could even exchange his bishop for that
And
knight,
that's
but
it.
he chooses to
Handshake.
checkmate.
Ooh.
Karthikeyan wins.
Takes down
Oh.
Dubov.